So let's start our class. I'm start by sharing the screen. So today we are in topic 5. And we are going to look at what we call public speaking and presentation. So when you talk about public speaking, I believe that at one point or the other, you have attended a public speaking session whereby the speaker talks about a certain subject or a specific subject. So public speaking, like every good story, every public speech has a purpose. So when you're starting a public speech, you must have a purpose. And it is often called the thesis. The purpose is the thesis, or the main idea. So the purpose controls the development of a speech. If you have a purpose, let's say, for example, you want to talk about HIV and AIDS, or maybe you want to talk about maybe an issue that is in the public domain, like the BBI, something like that. It means that you have a purpose, and as you give a speech, then you're going to develop that. As you continue giving the speech, there is new developments that happens in that particular speech of yours. So a speaker may even repeat or rephrase the purpose to make it clear. A speaker may even repeat or rephrase the purpose to make it clear. So as far as you have a public, you're having a public speech session, it means that there is a purpose or the main idea. So a speaker can even repeat or rephrase the purpose to make it clear, to the audiences, so that the audiences knows what you're talking about. So a clear purpose involves two things. Number one, it helps the listener to understand all the information. Like we have started our topic by saying, today we are going to learn about public speaking and presentation. The moment I've mentioned that, majority of you are able to know now that, even when you're explaining, people will understand what you're talking about. So it helps the listener understand all the information. The purpose also, it helps the speaker to stay on the topic. It helps the speaker to stay on the topic, not to divert or not to think of something else, but to stay focused on the topic. So a public speech has one of four general purposes. Number one, a public speech, the main purpose of a public speech is to inform. Maybe you want your listeners to understand something. If they already know something about your subject, you may help them understand better. Let's say, for example, we are talking about COVID-19, how to prevent yourself from COVID-19 virus. It means that already it is in the public domain and people knows very well that there is what we call COVID-19. But now, because they know the purpose, make them understand more better. Help them understand more better. How do you help a student or a person to understand a subject that you're talking more better? You start from the known to unknown. You start from known to unknown. You start from something that they know, and then you start now explaining things that they don't know. Yes. So, you decide to give a speech that will teach these skills to others. Let's say, for example, you're talking about COVID-19. So you decide to give a speech that will teach that particular skill to others. So the purpose of your speech then is to inform through facts, through methods and examples that you describe. Then from there, your listener will learn about taking pictures. Let's say, for example, you're talking about taking pictures or maybe talking about prevention of COVID-19. Then from there, at the end of the day, the people that you're talking to will learn we'll understand what you're talking about. Secondly, it is to persuade. To persuade simply means is to lure people to, or you change their minds to follow your what you want them to follow. For example, you want them to agree with you, or you may want to prove something, or you may even want to get them to take some action. Talk about, let's say, for example, maybe you are talking about a product, for example, a lotion that can eliminate what we call pimples and rashes on the skin. Then you have to persuade these people by giving them factual information about your product. So sometimes we use public speech to persuade people to take a certain action or to support your idea. Secondly, thirdly, public speech is used to entertain. So you may want your listener to enjoy themselves. You want them maybe to relax and forget their problems. You may even want them to see a funnier, lighter side of an issue or an event. So suppose maybe, for example, you decide to give a speech about the first time maybe you rode a horse, or maybe you went to Dubai or something like that. You remember several funny things that happened. Maybe you climbed on the horse and then you fell down or something like that. So sometimes we use public speech to entertain people, to make them forget about what problems they are going through, financial problems, relationship problems, those particular problems. Sometimes we do that to entertain them. Also, it is used to inspire. It is used to inspire. For example, if you want to inspire your listeners to share a belief or value, such as courage, such as justice, love of a country, etc., etc. Like, for example, you can inspire people to be courageous. Public speakers, they inspire people, we have had so many public speakers, and still we have so many public speakers, and their main aim is to do what? Their main aim is to encourage someone. This reminds me of something that I read was it on Facebook? A certain public speaker decided to conduct a meeting. And in this meeting, of course, for you to join this public speaking meeting, you are to pay 500 shillings. I don't know whether it is 500 shillings. I also know that you know this story. Some of us know this story. Now, during that time when this person was to deliver the speech, he said that before I started driving a car, I drew it on a paper. Before I started owning a cow, I drew the cow on a paper. And the mob, or the people, were very furious. And huyo jamaa alipigwa mawe kwa sababu huyu jamaa alikuwa anaongea vitu ambazo si za kweli. So imagine that 2 students in your school have done a very brave thing. So you decide to give them a speech about it. So you want other students to be moved by the bravery of these 2 people. So your purpose, therefore, is to inspire the listeners. So the people that you see trying to give you a speech, or they have organized what we call a workshop. And in those workshops you are being, there is what we call motivational speakers. The main aim of a motivational speaker is to do what? To help you gain courage, to help you have justice, or to help you like something. Maybe, for example, the motivational speaker can talk about how to move from, is it grass to grace, or how to become rich. because I believe that Kenyans are, I don't know that they are greedy, but they are yearning to become rich without, without sweating or without taking much time. So we use public speaking or speeches to inspire. We also use them for multiple purposes. We can use a public speech for multiple purposes. For example, during an election, you'll find somebody like the deputy president, Ruto. He has a main purpose. Maybe the main purpose is to do what? To create kazi kwa vijana. That is the main purpose. At the same time, he gives a speech so that you can vote him in as the next president in the year 2022. So it can also, you can also use a speech to do several things. To maybe persuade somebody to follow you or persuade other people to vote for you, and so on and so forth. So unless there is a question, I would want to go to types of public speeches. Is there any question? If there is no question, let's go to types of public speeches. So you're going to realize that before radio and televisions were common, public speeches were often major social and educational events. Before radio and televisions were common, people used public speech. And public speeches were often common because that is where people would get information. That is where people would be educated. So today, you're going to realize that most people no longer enjoy this kind of public speaking. So they like maybe a shorter public speaking, less formal speech. In spite of these changes, public speeches are still grouped according to the amount of preparation, the amount of time required, and public speeches okay, they are classified according to the number, the number of time that is used, their time required, and so on and so forth. Like for example, there are some speeches that requires you like a whole week to prepare. There are those kind of speeches that you are just picked, you are ambushed to speak. Maybe you are in a meeting and you're told, Mr. David, can you stand and tell us about a certain give us a report on what happened in your class. You see, you are not ready to give such a speech. So then we have, number one, we have the impromptu. Impromptu speech is a speech that you give and you are not prepared. Kwa mfano, umeattend mahali fulani meeting, or umeattend tu. You are not even in the list of the guest speakers who will be speaking. Ukiwa umekaa katika ile meeting, unasikia tu umeambiwa, hey Ken, can you give us the updates? How is your family? That is an impromptu speech. Or can you give us a speech on how we should prevent ourselves from HIV and AIDS virus? You see, that time you are not prepared to give a speech. Now, that kind of speech that you give is usually called impromptu. Impromptu is a speech that you give and you have to organize yourself very quickly on the things that you're going to say. So in other words, you have to think on your feet. Imagine umeenda tuseme State House, alafu umeenda tu kama visitor. Umeenda tu kama visitor, maybe siku ya Madaraka Day ama Jamhuri Day. And all of a sudden, somebody comes and tell you, Mr. David, can you come and talk to our students or to people? That one is usually known as impromptu. You are not prepared. It has gotten you off guard. And you have to stand. And you have to think very fast on what you're going to say. So the audience understands this and does not expect a polished speech. Umekuwa tu ambushed all of a sudden, give us a speech. So the audience knows that atakuja atupatie vitu fulani, atatuambia vitu fulani fulani, and they understand that you are not prepared. So most impromptu speeches are short. Most impromptu speeches are very short and organized simply. For example, suppose your topic is my favorite hobby. In a short speech, you could talk about only 2 or 3 hobbies. But if you are told before that next week you're going to give us a speech on your favorite hobby, you have enough time to prepare and to write all the hobbies that that you do. Then the opposite of impromptu speech is what we call the extemporaneous speech. The extemporaneous speech. So extemporaneous speech, it allows the speaker to prepare in advance. It prepares it helps the speaker or allows the speaker to prepare in advance. So the speaker knows when, he knows where, and to whom the speech will be given. In some cases, the speaker chooses their own word, their own topic. Like for example, if I say, let me look at one, let me check one student here. Suppose I say, Kokonya Joy, next week you are going to give us a speech on health and awareness. And specifically, you'll be giving us a speech about how to maybe deal with HIV and AIDS. That way, I have prepared Kokonya Joy, that I've prepared her psychologically. So she will go home, she will prepare the speech. The next time we meet, she will be able to give the speech. Of course, the speech will be very organized because she had all the time to plan for this. Unlike what we call impromptu. Impromptu, you don't have time. So once the purpose is clear, the speaker can begin to prepare the speech. So a speaker may write an outline or notes. He might write an outline or notes, and the speaker may also give the speech with or without any aids ama notes, kwa sababu already ulikuwa umempatia time ya kwenda kuprepare. So in rare cases, a speaker may write out the whole speech, like the way the president reads the speech. Is actually prepared well in advance. Before the president stands during Madaraka Day or during this one we call it what? Labor Day, hiyo speech yake inakuanga imekuwa prepared kwa sababu inajulikana hiyo siku lazima atapeana speech. So that one is called extemporaneous speech, and he knows where he will be giving the speech. So this type of speech, which is called the extemporaneous, we can also call it manuscript speech. And they are very hard to present well and should be avoided because they usually sound stiff. The manuscript speech, wale ambao wanasomanga speech. You remind me of this lady called Kanze Dena. The last time he was giving a speech and he was reading, it has been prepared for her to read. And he was saying, tarehe 35 Madaraka Day, ilikuwa Madaraka Day itafanyika Kisumu na tutakuwa na mgeni kutoka sijui, I don't know which country, is it Zimbabwe or something like that? Which country was that? The guest was coming from which country? Somebody?
South Africa.
Was coming from South Africa, really?
Burundi.
Yeah, he was coming from Burundi. So alisema tarehe 35. Kwa nini alikosea? Kwa sababu alikuwa anasoma. Suppose he was speaking without referring to the speech, she would not have made the same mistakes. So each kind of speech occasion, each kind of special occasion speech serves one of the 4 general purposes of speech. Number 1, it serves as an introduction and responses. So an introduction is simply a short beginning. or we can say that an introduction introduces the guest speaker. It states the speaker's qualification to talk about topics. Whenever a speaker stands during an impromptu speech, you have never seen this speaker. This speaker introduces himself. He says, my name is David Maina. I am from ZTech University. I teach communication skills and I'm a motivational speaker. You have to introduce yourself. It is always complimentary and respectful. Because once the speaker introduces himself, you can now tell that this person is competent. He is worthy to talk about the topic that he's talking about, or the subject of the topic. So the guest speaker usually thanks the person who gave the introduction. So there is that person who can give the introduction, or the speaker himself can do the introduction. So after that, we have after dinner speeches. So this is introduction and responses. When you're talking about introduction and responses is, let's say, for example, you have attended a meeting and everybody is given a what? Sometimes to introduce themselves. Or maybe the host is the one that is introducing all of you. Then we have after dinner speeches, and they are given after banquets or luncheons. So they are usually meant to entertain. After dinner speeches are usually meant to entertain. Then we also have presentation and acceptance speeches. Presentation and acceptance speeches. A presentation speech is made when an award gift or honor is given. Saa zile tunaenda mahali, tunaenda kupewa zawadi. That is when we do presentation and acceptance speeches. Then we have what we call commemorative speeches. Commemorative speeches are given to remember people or events. They honor past accomplishment. Sijui kama hii inafanyika. You just go somewhere to commemorate something. Like you can decide as a family to go home and do what? Remember some people. Maybe remember your mother who left you some few years back. Maybe she died because of an accident or something. So you are going there to remember her. She died maybe in the year 2005. Maybe alikufa 2005 na sasa mmekutana kama familia kuongea kuhusu hao mashujaa. So that one is known as commemorative speeches. The same also happens during Mashujaa Day. There is a lot that is said about those people who are in charge of fighting for the freedom of this country. Those ones are usually known as commemorative speeches. Then lastly, we have graduation speeches. At the end of your stay at ZTech University, we are going to give speeches and we are going to welcome dignitaries and very important people in the society. Those ones, you know what we are talking about. During that time, speeches are going to be given. The DVC will give a speech. The Vice Chancellor will give a speech. The Chancellor herself will give us the speech. And everybody who will be on the list, on his name will be on what we call actually what we are saying is that wale ambao majina yao itakuwa mahali kwa list ambao wanafaa kuongea, they will give a speech during your graduation and so on and so forth. So let's look at delivering the presentation. So there are various ways of delivering a presentation. Suppose you are called to give a speech. Suppose you are called to give a speech. So there are various types of delivery. delivery simply means there are various ways of giving that particular speech. There are various ways of giving that particular speech. Number one, there is what we call impromptu speaking. We have impromptu speaking, and impromptu speaking is giving of a speech on the spur of the moment. Usually, there is little or no time for preparation. So sometimes your instructor might ask you to give an impromptu speech in a class. Other times, you might be asked to give what? Toast or offer a prayer at a gathering. That's why we are doing communication skills. Because I believe that some of us, the confidence that you need to have, you don't have. So how do you gain the confidence? It's because this is how you learn the confidence, by understanding how to give, for example, to deliver a speech. Secondly, how do you gain the confidence? You gain the confidence by practicing. I know there are those people who practice and they talk to themselves. Because as a student, you need to understand, to have what we call confidence when you're giving a speech. Because you're going to realize that one day maybe, you'll be asked to give or to offer a prayer at a gathering. Hiyo ndio siku utajua haujui. Hiyo ndio siku utajua haujui. Na labda watu wako hapo kwa hiyo gathering, there are more than 200 people. And you are expected to give a prayer, or you are expected to give a report on something. So it is always good to practice, and always good to keep on practicing. Keep on practicing until you have the confidence to do that. Also, the another type of delivery, we have speaking from a manuscript. You are speaking from a manuscript. This simply means that a speech has been written for you. So kazi yako ni kusoma hiyo speech mpaka unamaliza. And this one is not a good way of reading. So when you read a speech, you can get a clear idea of how long it is. So manuscript speaking is a good method when exact timing is necessary. Let's say, for example, you are to present, you are to talk to a gathering. Number one advantage of manuscript is that it tells you what to read. So that speech will take the time that you had intended it to take. That's another thing. Another disadvantage of speaking from a manuscript, you are prone to errors. If somebody makes an error in your manuscript, just like we said, Kanze Dena, she said that the event will take date 35, tarehe 35, kwa sababu alikuwa anasoma, meaning akili yake haiko, he is not internalizing the message. He's just reading for the sake of reading, and then he's done with it, and then goes and does something else. So speaking from a manuscript is not the best way. Because also when you look at somebody reading from a manuscript, you can actually say that these people are not serious. But when somebody is talking to you, when he's not reading from a manuscript, you can actually say that this person is sure of what he's saying. Then from there, we have memorizing the speech. We have very good people who can memorize a speech. A speech is written down and they memorize the speech from paragraph 1 to the last paragraph. And when they stand before the congregation or before a multitude of people, they say the speech exactly the way it is written. I think also that one is very good. But now this one sounds mechanical, something like that. So this one involves writing out the entire speech and then communicating, committing or putting it into your memory word for word. Then the day of giving the speech.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes. Yes, you are excused. I'm waiting. Nakusikia, nimenyamaza. Somebody is telling me to excuse her. somebody is telling me to excuse her and she's not talking. So that is it. I'll leave alone that one. So that is it. We have memorizing the speech. We also have extemporaneous speaking. Extemporaneous speaking, the speaker delivers a speech from notes. The speaker delivers a speech from notes. So the speaker may commit some of the main ideas of the speech to memory, possibly also the introduction and the conclusion. So in extemporaneous speaking, the speaker delivers a speech from the notes. So do not confuse extemporaneous speaking with speaking from a manuscript. Because as far as speaking from a manuscript is concerned, it involves writing out the entire speech and reading it out to the audience. But extemporaneous speaking, the speaker delivers a speech from notes. So he may decide to give other things. I mean, he may decide to speak other things apart from what is written on the notes. But for manuscript speaking or speaking from a manuscript, you read everything from letter 1 to the last letter. Extemporaneous speaking, at least you have some freedom to add your own things or to add your own information. That is the difference between memorizing speaking from a manuscript and extemporaneous speaking. And extemporaneous speaking, the speaker has been given time to do what? To prepare for the speech. So let's look at guidelines for delivery unless there is a question. Kuna swali? Do you have a question? Is there any question before I proceed? So let's look at guidelines for delivery. Number 1, maybe you have been asked to go and give a speech. We have a student by the name Mbulwa. Umeambiwa sasa wewe utapeana speech kwa wanafunzi wa ZTech ambao wana graduate hii mwaka. Umechaguliwa. So you need to have the guidelines for delivery. Number 1, you have to consider how you look. If you're going to give a speech, don't wear mini skirts. If you're going to give a speech, do not wear clothes.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes. Huyu nani ananiambia excuse me sana na hataki kuongea. Who is this telling me excuse me?
It's me.
Yes, Njeri.
Yeah, I can't get
You know, you have a problem on your side because you are sounding like a piano. Njeri Jenga, you have a problem on your side.
very poor.
We can't hear you. You are sounding like a piano.
Right now I can. And that's how you're sounding on my side.
Then there is a problem on your side, and I want to confirm from Mother. Michelle Ndongo, can you hear me? Michelle Ndongo, can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I clear, or I'm sounding like a piano or something like that?
You're clear.
Yeah, I'm doing this because Njeri Jenga is telling me that I'm sounding like a piano on her side. Eh?
Yeah, you're clear.
Kendi Getonga, can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I clear, or there is some element of distortion?
You are clear.
So my friend Jerry Jenga, work on your gadgets, work on your internet, work on your phone or your laptop, because others are not complaining. So I think the problem is on your side. So work on that particular problem. So guidelines for delivery. Number one, I'm saying this, Mbulwa, you have been asked to give a speech for the graduating class of 2021 at Zitech University. How do you prepare yourself to give such a speech? Number one, you have to be very cautious of how you look. Remember, how you look when you're giving a speech will the speaker, it will determine, or it will make the speakers either to accept your argument or not to accept your argument. So you have to be very careful, and you have to put on clothes that shows credibility. Kuna manguo ambayo unavaa hata kama unapea watu information ambayo ni ya ukweli, ambayo haina kasoro, kitu kama hiyo, unapata watu hawakutrust. They don't trust you because of how you are appearing. So number one, you're supposed to dress well and appropriately. This is a graduation ceremony. It has been attended by various professors from various universities, including our vice chancellor is there, our deans of students is there, everybody in academics, including your lecturers, are there. Then you dress inappropriately. Number one, you are supposed to dress appropriately. The way you walk, again, you're supposed to walk in a straight, because the way you walk can tell us whether you are confident or not. So you have to dress well, walk with confidence, and look interested in giving the speech. There are people who, when they are giving the speech, they don't look interested at all. So you have to look interested in giving the speech. Secondly, you have to watch on your body movement. Move purposefully between points. When you are reading, move purposefully between points. If you are always moving, then no movement will be meaningful. Umepewa speech useme, wewe unasoma tu, hata hautilii mkazo any point. That one, your audience will never know what you are talking about. Secondly, you have to ensure that you maintain the eye contact. So make eye contact with the individuals in your audience as you speak, keeping in mind the culture of your audiences. For example, in American culture, eye contact is very important. And if you don't keep the eye contact, you are at risk of being considered dishonest or having something that you have hidden. Like, for example, let me give a very good example. When a man is dating a lady, and this man is never maintaining eye contact with the lady, what kind of impression do you get from this? You'll get that you're going to put this conclusion, or to conclude that this man is not trustworthy. He looks like he's going to take me round and round and then dump me in future. Secondly, we are giving an example. In the Islamic culture, it is wise to avoid eye contact with the opposite sex. That is the culture. When you are talking, also be conversant with the culture of the people. When you're talking to a Muzungu from America and you are always facing down, just know that number one, you are communicating, you are showing that you're not trustworthy, you are not credible, and whatever you are telling us is not true. So again, focus on the facial expressions. When you're giving the speech, they are very important. Facial expressions are very important and must be consistent with your message. If you're persuading somebody to buy something, or you're persuading somebody that BBI is good, facial expression will tell. Some people will say that it is good, but when you look at their face, it tells you that that thing is not good at all. Also focus on the gestures. When we speak, most of our gestures are made up of hands and arms movement. So we usually use gestures to express or emphasize ideas or emotions. Be very careful when you're using gestures. Kuna watu akianza kuongea anarusha mikono huku na huko aimlessly, hata anaweza gonga mtu ambaye ako karibu na yeye. So ensure that your gestures are used appropriately and they are used in line with the speech that you're giving. The next one is posture. The way you stand, the way you sit, the way you stand and the way you speak, the way you speak and the way you walk tells us the kind of a person you are. I happened to go for a supervision. I was supervising a student, a more university student. He was working with the Star newspaper. So I had to go to Lions Place at Westlands to supervise this student. Of course, the person that I met there was the chief editor of the Star newspaper. And we had a talk with this particular chief editor. And he told me that if I want to know a journalist, the moment he enters that door, I can say that this one is a journalist. The way he speaks, I can say that this one is a journalist. It is very easy to know a journalist and a person who is not, a person who is not a journalist. So in other words, what I'm trying to tell you is that it is the posture, the way you walk, the way you stand. If you drag your feet, or it communicates that you are lazy. Umeitwa upeane speech, unatembea kama unavuruta miguu mpaka unafika huko kwa podium. Inaonyesha ya kwamba wewe tayari wewe ni mzembe. The way you sit, wengine wanakaa ni kama wanataka kutoroka. You know that time when people are having what we call marathon. Get set, go. So you are getting set. You are sitting as if you are getting set to go. Something like that. So posture is very important. If you're going to give a speech, stand straight, focus on the people, and walk straight. If you are sitting, sit comfortably. Kuna wale ambao pia wanakaa kama wamekunja miguu. You are twisting your legs, or you are shaking your legs like maybe you are pressed or something like that. So that one is not good. The next one is how you sound. When you're giving the speech, how you sound is very important. Number one, volume. Check your volume, so you will be heard throughout the audience. So if you are giving a speech, don't speak as if you are doing what? You are just giving a secret to someone. Saa zile unapea mtu ka secret, huo unakaa kidogo unamnong'onezea polepole. So volume is very important when you're giving a speech. Raise your volume so that people can understand what you're saying. Using a microphone, some of us don't know how to use a microphone. You have never used one before. Ukishapewa microphone, the first thing to test whether it is working, unaitap, pap, pap, pap. That one is very wrong. For your information, tapping a microphone when you're given a microphone is a very unprofessional and uncouth way of doing it. Instead, you can talk and say, hello, can you hear me? Something like that. Also, pace. Pace refers to how fast or slowly you speak. There are people who give a speech and they are very slow in speaking. And this one renders the audiences, or it makes the audiences sleep, or they are not interested, or they are waiting for you to finish the speech so that they can listen to the next speaker. Also, those ones that you are going to read about, pitch and inflection and enunciation. So also we are told about using visual aids when you're giving a speech. When you are giving a speech, it is good. Kuna huyu mtu anatupigia kelele, wacha tumurushe waiting room. It's a person who is making noise. Ni kama ametumwa. Acha tumutoe hapa. Tulisema ya kwamba ukitupigia kelele tunakutoa class, tunaonana next week. Huyo anatupigia tu kelele hapa, hata after kumwambia akuwa anaweka microphone off. So as a speaker, again, you can use visual aids. Visual aids are devices such as, for example, charts, such as diagrams, slides. You can use those ones to illustrate the key points when you're giving a speech. So visual aids, they help hold the attention of the listener. Saa zingine tunaingia auditorium, unapata ya kwamba wametuwekea ile inaitwa projector hapo. The moment you project your work on the projector, it actually attracts attention to the listeners. And again, when you project your work using what we call the projector, people can follow exactly what you are saying. So they provide information in the visual channel and they help audiences remember what you have said when you use visual aids like projectors, like flip charts, like all those things. Or maybe you're using a screen like a TV screen. That one attracts more attention and people can understand easily what you're talking about than when you stand. Maybe, for example, you are standing before a congregation. You are presenting something that is very technical. People are not understanding. Maybe you are presenting something to do with, something technical, like maybe a vehicle, or how to operate a machine, a certain machine. Una present tu, unaongea tu kwa mdomo, na hiyo machine haiko. Hapo utakuwa unajiongelesha. So as far as it is concerned, it is always good to do what? To use visual aids, especially when you're talking about devices that need technical operation or that needs to be operated technically, something like that. But what happened to the emerging technologies that we have in the world? So let's look at functions of supporting materials. Supporting materials are the ones that we give a speech. So the term supporting material refers to the information a person provides to develop or justify an idea that is offered for the listener's consideration. Like, for example, if you're giving a speech, you will need what we call supporting material. For example, maybe you're giving a speech on drug habits. You need supporting materials. The supporting materials can be maybe a person who had been involved with drugs, or who was a drug addict and now he has what we call transformed. Or maybe you have supporting materials such as photographs, or you have supporting materials such as videos to support your idea or to support the subject of your speech. So supporting materials will help to clarify the speaker's point. It will also help to emphasize the point, and also it will help to make the point more interesting. So supporting materials are very important, again, because they help to furnish the subject of the subject of the topic that you're talking about. So we also have verbal support. I'm leaving that one for you to read. Then we go to visual aids. Types of visual aids. These are objects and models. For example, maybe you are a journalist. You want you are giving a speech on the types of cameras that you have and the work that these cameras are involved in. Now, you can have that particular object, those particular cameras, the various types of cameras. Or maybe you do what we call this course called what? CHTM. That one for hospitality. You want to show how a cake is made and how it looks after it has been made. Then you need maybe photographs, or you need a real cake there. You need a real cake there to show people how it looks, something like that. So those are supporting materials. Those are supporting materials. So we can have objects and models. We can also have photographs. If you are talking about, let's say, for example, hunger in Kenya or in Loitoktok, you can show us pictures of how people are suffering in Loitoktok. You can also show us diagrams such as pie charts, bar charts, line graphs, such things. You can also have lists and tables. Maybe you are projecting those people who have been in support of maybe something financially. So you project their names there. So we need lists and tables. We need charts and graphs. We also need pictograms and media. And therefore, we also have what we call different medias for presenting visual aids. You can present using PowerPoint. You can present using flip charts and posters, slides, handouts, videotapes, chalks and dry erase boards. Chalk and dry erase boards. Then let's look at the rules of using visual aids. Remember, visual aids are things that helps you project your message. Like a projector is a visual aid. Like a flip chart is a visual aid. Like a screen. Nowadays, if you go to many churches, you'll find that they have screens, very big screens. Those are visual aids. So these are the rules of using the visual aids. Number one, be sure you have a reason for using a visual aid. Before you use a visual aid, be very sure. So we are saying these rules for using visual aids. Number one, if you have been asked to go and give a speech, number one, you must be sure that you have a reason for using a visual aid. Number one, you have to know that you have a reason, or you need to very well be sure that you're going to need a visual aid. Number two, you must match the sophistication of your visual aids to the audience. And then you must design the layout, then keep the design simple. Make sure it is large enough to be seen. Whenever you're presenting to the people, make sure that whatever you're presenting is something that is very big and can be seen. Use only what we call horizontal printing. So let's look at the functions of a visual aid. They show how things look. A visual aid usually show how things look. They show how things relate to one another. They emphasize the important points, and they hold the listener's attention. And the last thing is that they help the audience remember what you said. For example, when you show something on a screen, people will understand more of what you're talking about, and they can remember that for the rest of their lifetime. Remember, when you see something, you remember more than when you listen. When you listen at something compared to seeing, you're going to keep the image in your mind, but listening, it is easier to forget. So I'll stop there unless there is a question. Kama kuna swali niulizwe tafadhali. Do you have any question? Let's look at, yes.
What was number one for the guidelines of delivery?
Guidelines of delivery.
Yes.
Which delivering what? The speech.
Yes.
Hey, itabidi niende huko, nirudi huko. Number one was how you look. How you look. Guidelines for delivery is how you look. Be very cautious on how you look.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Mwalimu,
Yes.
please, since you have shared your screen,
This is Wairibo speaking, eh?
others are copying notes, and you have removed your screen faster. The other one, page 9.
Page 9. Are you among the people who are copying notes?
Yes.
Now let me. I have already removed it. I have already removed it, and inaonekana pia nime. Let me see whether it is here. Number 9. Number 9. Remove the visual after discussing it. Is it what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, let me explain about that point. The moment you are done presenting your speech on a visual aid, you have to remove that particular visual. Once you discuss, maybe we are talking about the types of cameras. And camera number 1 is digital single reflex camera. Once you are done presenting that particular camera, and now you are going to another type of a camera, you remove that visual, and then you put another one. Once you are done talking about that particular one, you go like that. Si kutuwekea hiyo kamera na inakaa hapo, haumove, haubadilishi hiyo picha, unaongea kuhusu kamera zingine na hautoki hapo kwa hiyo picha ya kwanza. Because people will wonder what you're talking about. Again, you're going to confuse people. Now, I'm assuming somebody is coming in between the speech, as in mtu amejoin hiyo speech in the middle. Na picha ya kwanza yenye ulianza nayo ya camera ama whatever you are presenting haujatoa. That person will be confused throughout the entire speech. So it is always good to remove the visual after you have discussed it on whatever visual aid you're using. Any other question? I want somebody to tell us what we have learned today.
Do you hear me, Mr. Minor?
Yes, I can hear you.
Just a quick one. Mine is about the types of under the delivery, how we deliver public speaking messages. And we went through impromptu. We said we have like 4 types: impromptu, manuscript, memorizing, and extemporaneous. Assume in some cases we can sometimes even our president addressing the nation, and he will always address the nation, maybe following the manuscript, reading what has been written for him. Then upon completion, he will now render to another one, like giving another point outside the what has been written. Now, where do we categorize this one?
That one is now that one can be called extemporaneous. It is extemporaneous because in extemporaneous you are allowed to add your own points. You are allowed to read the speech, but also you can add your own points. So the speech that the president gives is not a manuscript. It is usually referred to as extemporaneous because, say for example, it's Jamhuri Day. The president was very aware that a certain place and at certain time he's going to give a speech. So he's given the speech, which is written, and then he starts now. As he reads the speech, there are some things that he is saying to emphasize a point. Now that one, we can call it extemporaneous.
Thank you.
Any other question? I'm looking for somebody who will tell us what they have learned today, na Natafuta mtu mmoja. I've gotten her. Linet Odeke, can you tell us what we have learned today? Then we call it a day.
Okay, okay, we've been looking at
And it is prudent of you to put your camera on. You can see today my camera is on, so that we know whether you are running from a bed or something.
I'm at home, but I'm not putting my camera on. I look awkward in a camera.
Okay.
So we've been looking at public speaking and presentations, where we've defined it. We've also looked at uses of public speech, where there have been several. I think we've been taking notes: to persuade, to inform, to entertain, to inspire, and for multiple purposes. You will do the explanation by yourself. So we looked at types of a public speech, where we had two types: impromptu speeches and extemporaneous speeches, which are also known as manuscript speech. We also looked at how we deliver the presentations, and we looked at types of delivery, which were impromptu speaking from a manuscript, memorizing speeches, extemporaneous speaking. We've also gone through guidelines for delivery, and these we looked at how one looks. Then there under it we had appearance, body movement, eye contact, and facial expressions, gestures, posture, and we also looked at number 2, how you sound, where we looked at the volume and how your volume is either high or low. Then we looked at using a microphone. We looked at pace, pitch, and inflection. Then number 3, we looked at visual aids. Then we went further on to verbal and visual supporting presentations, where we looked at functions of supporting materials. We looked at visual aids, types of visual aids. We looked at objectives, and these were objectives and models, photographs, diagrams, lists and tables, charts and graphs, pictograms, media. And so you need to explain to us what pictograms are. We also looked at rules of using visual aids, which there were several. You be sure you have a reason for the visual aid, match the sophistication of your visual to the audience, design the layout, keep the design simple, use only horizontal printing, label all items for clear notifications, don't display the visual until you are ready for it, remove the visual after discussing it, make sure it is large enough for the audience to see. We looked, the last thing we looked at, they were functions of visual aids, which were show how things look, show how things work, you show how things relate to one another, emphasize important points, hold the listener's attention, help the audience remember what you've said. I think that's what we've looked at today.
Thank you, Odeke, Linet. Now you have said that I should tell you what a pictogram is.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about pictograms is these are small pictures. These are small pictures that state something. Like for example, you'll find somebody saying slippery floor, and then there is an image showing someone who is about to slide or to fall down. Let me share my screen so that you can see what a pictogram is. Now, when you look at that, do you know your pictograms? You can see pictograms there. Like these ones are like warning signs. You can see they are using pictures. These are what we call pictograms. We can also have this one, whereby you are told 1 cupcake is equals to 6 cupcakes. Linet, can you see that?
Yes, I can see it.
Now these are called pictograms. Like look at Tuesday. Tuesday we have 2 cakes and a half. So this means that these are how many cakes? Remember, 1 cupcake is equals to 6 cupcakes. So how many cupcakes are 2 and a half?
Five, I think so.
There are 5.
15.
1 cupcake is equals to 6. Half is equals to 3. So these are 12, 13, 14, 15. There are 15 cupcakes.
15.
Yes, 15 cupcakes. So these are what we call pictograms. I've answered your question. Any other person? Any question? So
When are we having our exams?
exam will be done on, is it August? That month of August. I don't know the specific date, but
And what about cats?
cats, they are coming. Like today, you're going to have assignment 1. Next week, but 1, you'll be having assignment cat 2. Next week, but 2, you will be having assignment 2. Like that. After 2 weeks, once you are done with assignment 2, you'll be doing your cat 2. And then we will call it a semester. Now, let me talk about today's class, how it is. First of all, I'll start by giving you the password for today's register. Leo nawapea password ya register ya leo. So this is the password V6GYJ5. Let me share it there. On the public chat, I'm sharing the password for the register. I hope you can see it. I hope you can see it.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Is it in small letters or capital?
Those are small letters. If you want to know whether they are small
Okay,
letters, this is how you check. Anytime you want to know that it is a small letter, you check the sizes. You see they are of the same size. V, G, Y, J. They are of the same size, meaning they are small letters. Now I've given you the register, the password for the register. Something else. Something else. Let's go to today's topic. Today's topic was public speaking and presentation. In that particular topic, there are notes. Those notes I've unleashed them for you to read. And then there is what we call activity. Activity 5.1 is reading. So read any other supplementary reading material outlining public speaking skill. And then activity 5.2 is discussion. Discuss 5 body language errors that a presenter must not commit during a presentation. You discuss, not listing. Some people are doing listing when they are being told discuss. So it's always good to read the question carefully and do exactly what you've been told. This is discuss 5 body language errors that a presenter must not commit during a presentation. Then from there, you're going to do put it in the forum. And then after doing the forum, today I'm not going to give a discussion group, but I'll give assignment 1. I'll give assignment 1. So there is assignment 1 there. There is assignment 1 there. And this assignment opens today. It opens today, or it opened today at what time? At 7:51 a.m. 7:51 a.m. That is when the quiz opened. And it will close on 30th June, 12 a.m. So saa 6 ya usiku kama hautakuwa umefanya hiyo assignment na umesubmit, tafadhali acha kunipigia simu nikiwa kwangu unaniambia nikufungulia assignment. That one will be negligence and lack of planning on your side. In fact, we can also add another jargon, ignorance. So it will be ignorance, negligence, and lack of planning on your side. Remember, I've given you a whole week. You have how many days? 7 days to do that particular assignment. I hope hapo tumeelewana. Mimi usinipigie simu kama hujafanya assignment. Wewe jua tu utakuwa umepata 0. I'll just give you a 0 because of ignorance. Number 2, because of what we call negligence. And number 3, because of lack of planning on your side. Na hiyo mimi wasihurumii. So I hope that one is okay. Let's go and do the activities and then we can call it a day. As I take a cup of tea. Kuna swali?
Mwalimu, before you leave, just a quick one. My colleague wanted a clarification on the
Before
pitch.
you leave,
Go ahead. There are people who are making noise. I'm listening.
Oh, sorry, just a quick one. My colleague here was asking, he wanted to know a clarification about the pitch as has been used under the point 2, how you sound while making a public speaking. So he wanted to know, to be clarified on the pitch, the point of the pitch.
When you talk about pitch, pitch is highness or lowness of voice. The way you speak, I'm talking about how low or how high your sound is. Will either make the people or the listeners attracted and attracted to your speech or distracted from your speech. So pitch is the highness or lowness of someone's voice. Like for example, when you have done a mistake, especially those people who are what? When you have done a mistake, especially those people who lived with their parents, there is the way your parent calls you and you know things are not good. And there is a way they call you and you know, things are very good today. So that one is all about speech, the highness and the lowness of voice. You should vary your speech. You should vary your speech depending on what you're telling us. Maybe you're giving a story to kids. This one actually happens very well to kids. If you're giving a very thrilling story to kids, there is the way you raise your voice, and there is a point where you calm down. You tell them, you start talking in low tones. So pitch is highness or lowness of voice, which is very important during presentation. Because sometimes you can use a very high pitch. Maybe you are sounding, you are giving a warning, maybe about COVID-19. This time, when you're giving that warning, you should raise your pitch. Pitch yako inakuwa ya juu, kuonyesha ya kwamba it's not a joke, people are dying, something like that. Na kuna mahali tu unaongea tu kama kawaida, like friends or something. When you're giving a speech, you're talking as if you're talking to a friend. I hope that one is understood.
Okay. Oh, I would have to ask a question. Is it the same as voice intonation?
Yeah, the same case. Yeah, voice intonation. The tonal voice or the tone of voice that you use.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and the tone of voice when you're using it, especially when you're talking to a kid, you're going to use a very different tone. If you're going to talk to your spouse, you're going to use a very different tone, and so on and so forth. So the tone tells whether somebody is angry, whether somebody is happy, whether somebody is not interested, something like that. Or maybe somebody is bored. The tone of voice can communicate all that. Any other question? Kuna swali? So if there is no question, let's go and do the activity that have been put on the forum. Again, you should also realize, and you are supposed to note that in every topic, I am trying as as much as possible to post the recording. That recording takes you to a YouTube. So you can watch these classes on YouTube. Na ukitaka zinaitangwa nini? Zinaitwa updates. You know how you do it. You click on the bell and you click on the updates, and you'll be getting updates of those recordings.
Mr. David.
Yes.
Mr. David.
Yes. Nakusikia. Kuna mtu anajaribu kuongea na mimi lakini ni kama hanisikii. Any question? I'm waiting for you to speak.
Excuse me, Mwalimu.
Yes, I taught it.
I just want a clarification about the assignment and the assignment.
Yes. So what clarification? I've said that number one, I've given a discussion forum. So today you are going to do discussion forum and a quick and assignment one. Instead of a quiz, today you will do assignment one. This assignment will expire after 7 days. So by that, everybody must have done that particular assignment. For the discussion forum, it will expire today. At what time? I'm not so sure, but it is not expiring immediately. Let me check. Let me tell you when the forum will be expiring. Already somebody has done the forum. Kuna mtu hapa ako very fast ashafanya hiyo forum. Huyu mwanafunzi ni wa CBM. So it will expire at I'm checking the date. So the forum will expire at 1 on
Yes.
the dot. It expires.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So we meet
Thank you very much.
next. Okay, thank you. Any other question? No question. So let's meet next week and let's do our assignments. Let's do our discussion forums. And let's meet next week, God willing.
Password ya class ni gani ya attendance?
Kama ni password nataka siangalie tu hapo kwa public chat.
Password ni password ni akinipeni password. Akisinipe password ya class. Akinipeni password, please.
Password siko hapo kwa chatting portal.
Umejaribu kuweka nini sini ya 349562.
Hapana, V6 GY J5 in lowercase.
So matena.
V 6 or G Y J5 both in lowercase.
YJ5.
Zote in lowercase.
Sawa.
But iko hapo kwa portal, kwa chat nini hapo kwa chat.
In the summer of 1994, 35 years after Patton graduated from New York Seminary, he returned to Manhattan with Operation Blessing, kicked off those trust to feed America's hungry.
We need you praying because we need people to help in this effort all over the nation and among others, need churches, because what I want people to do, I want the church to be the leader in the community. The compassion was real. This was not simply tricking people into being interested in hearing the gospel by giving them things. It was a care and a love for people. And of course, that's a masterful testimony to what Jesus is, the heart of God is.
Pat started Operation Blessing in 1978 after reading scriptures in Isaiah about caring for the poor. Those early outreaches included meals for the hungry, blankets for the homeless, and groceries to feed families in crisis. By 1983,
That's what's happening with CBN and the 700 Club's Operation Blessing. They've given nearly $2.5 million to more than 8,500 churches, and this money is then matched by the local churches. The result has been fantastic. We worked on God's faithfulness. So it wasn't like we had this huge store of resources they would drew from. It was like God led us step by step.
The need for staple foods like brown rice led to distribution projects in suffering and remote areas.
We're terribly impressed by this project. Thank you. A lot of people, you know, that there are no hungry people in this country. That's what's up.
Terry Mewson, co-host of the 700 Club, first shared in Operation Blessing's hunger relief convoys more than 2 decades ago.
And I mean, to this day, tons of food every month go out across this country to hungry families. When there's disaster, I mean, Obi is first on the spot and last to leave. And he is the one who was the catalyst for all of that, the one saying, get the job done. I've been on team cleft palates repaired and hearts repaired, and you know, we've done all kinds of eye surgeries for people who've lost their vision, so that was quite amazing.
Yeah, and that's been fairly low profile in this ministry in many people's minds, but globally it has been powerfully impactful. Would you like me to pray for you?
Operation Blessing International's President Gordon Robertson sees an even wider outreach to those in need.
Now one of the most trusted charities in the world, Operation Blessing International has touched the lives of millions of people in over 9 countries and in every state, providing disaster relief, medical aid, clean water, and community development, all with the love of Jesus Christ. And with God's help, we are looking ahead to do even more, because the best is yet to come.
That is yet to come. At 40 years.
Sure, Isaiah 58, you know, if you just name your bread to the hungry, and that's what it started. It was the blessing of God, and we started with a little 3x5 code. of people who live in. I can give some canned food to the poor, or I can drive my neighbor to the dentist, to the hairdresser, or whatever.
And the Bible says if you take care of the poor, then I'll take care of you. It's pretty simple.
And I think there's no question that when trouble came on various ministries because of the violent scandal stuff, the Lord had given us the power, and our income went down on one side and went back up on the other, and we balanced out and we didn't trouble. Because Operation Blessing was there. But folks, as Gordon said, the best is yet to come. And Operation Blessing started with around the world and here at home. And one of the first places we started was right in our own backyard in Portsmouth, Virginia. And for the past 2 decades, we've teamed up with local charities to meet the needs of our community.
For 40 years, Operation Blessing has helped struggling families all over the world. Operation Blessing meets medical needs of the young and old. We dig wells where there is no clean water. We provide relief in times of disaster. And through our partnership with local ministries, we get food to people in their most desperate times.